First contact. The Galactic Council chamber hummed with tension as the Explorer Guild's hologram took center stage. Esteemed counselors, the Guild Master began. Our long-range probes have discovered a new civilization on the edge of Council space. They call themselves humans and hail from a planet named Earth. Murmurs rippled through the assembled alien dignitaries. An Avorian counselor spoke up, her crystalline eyes narrowing. What have you learned of these humans? Are they peaceful? The Guild Master's expression turned grave. Our probe's findings are troubling. The humans' history is rife with conflict and warfare. Even now, they maintain sizable military forces and train in crude methods of violence, such as hand-to-hand combat. Gasps echoed through the chamber. Barbaric, Azinthian exclaimed, his feathered crest flaring in disgust. Surely we must quarantine them for the safety of the galactic community. I concur, the insectoid Click-Kicks representative chittered. Allowing such an aggressive species to join us would only invite chaos. However, others were not so quick to judge. We cannot condemn an entire civilization based on their past, argued a slug-like gastropoid. Many of us once warred amongst ourselves before finding the path of peace. I say we make contact and welcome them as brothers and sisters in the Council. The debate raged for hours, until finally the Council called a vote. By the slimmest of margins, the verdict was cast in favor of initiating first contact with Earth and humanity. As the Council adjourned, the Guild Master couldn't shake a sense of unease. The humans were unlike any species they had encountered before. Only time would tell if the Council's decision had been a wise one. The ultimatum. The neutral space station hung serenely against a backdrop of stars, a chrome oasis amidst the void. Within its sterile halls, a momentous meeting was underway as human and alien diplomats convened for the first time. Ambassador Zolkrix of the Galactic Council appraised the human delegation with compound eyes that glittered like polished onyx. On behalf of the Council, I welcome humanity to the galactic stage. He trilled in a clipped, precise cadence. We have much to discuss regarding your potential membership in our august body. The human ambassador, a stern-faced woman named Eliza Corveth, inclined her head respectfully. The people of Earth are honored by your invitation, Ambassador Zolkrix. We look forward to forging closer ties with our cosmic neighbors. However, as the talks proceeded, the Council representatives grew increasingly perturbed by what they learned of human society. You mean to tell us that you still train your soldiers in hand-to-hand combat? Zolkrix sputtered incredulously. And your civilians regularly practice with kinetic weaponry. How utterly primitive. Corveth's jaw tightened at the alien's condescending tone. I assure you, Ambassador, that as a spacefaring civilization, we are well versed in modern warfighting techniques. Our martial traditions are a proud part of our heritage, not some barbaric anachronism. Be that as it may, Zolkrix sniffed, the Council has strict standards for membership. If humanity is to join us, you must renounce these violent practices and embrace the ways of peace. Dismantle your militaries and destroy your weapons as a show of good faith. Corveth couldn't contain a bark of disbelieving laughter. You can't be serious. Humanity will never leave itself defenseless, especially not on the demands of foreign powers. We desire peace, but not at the cost of our sovereignty and security. Zolkrix rose to his full height, his chitinous plates gleaming under the stark light. This is no laughing matter, human. The Council has no place for warmongers who cling to the brutish ways of the past. You have a choice. Abandon your militarism and join us in enlightened pacifism, or be branded as a threat to the galactic peace and face judgment. We will give you one standard month to comply with our ultimatum. With that, the Council delegation stormed out, leaving Corveth alone with the weight of the galaxy on her shoulders. War begins. The first blow came without warning. One moment, the human fleet was conducting routine patrols along the borders of Sol space. The next, the void lit up with the blinding lance of the Galactic Council's particle beams and the hammer blow of their antimatter missiles. Admiral Hector Vance braced himself against the bridge of the UNSS Dauntless as the dreadnought shuddered under the aliens' assault. "Report," he barked over the klaxons. "Multiple hostiles inbound, sir," his sensor officer replied. "It's a full invasion fleet, Counselor ships supported by Ivorian and Cynthian cruisers. They're not responding to hails." Vance's eyes narrowed as he beheld the tactical display of the massed alien armada bearing down on Earth's defenses. The Council had made their choice. If it was war they wanted, then war they would get. "Battle stations," he roared. "Launch all fighters and ready the Q cannons. If these Council bastards think they can conquer humanity, they're in for a rude awakening." Across Earth's sprawling sphere of influence, human warships and orbital gun platforms opened up on the invaders with a storm of kinetic slugs, particle lances, and graviton pulses. To the Council's shock, the humans' defenses held firm, their advanced shields and armor weathering the worst of the onslaught. On the ground, Earth's armies rallied to meet the alien foe. Power-armored troopers in hulking battle mix clashed with the Council's cloned soldiers and robot warriors in the rubble-strewn streets of shattered cities. Though outnumbered and outgunned, the human defenders fought with a tenacity and skill that stymied the invaders at every turn. Sergeant Maria Fuentes gritted her teeth as her squad's grisly APC juddered under an plasma blast. The vehicle's reactive armor held, but the impact still rattled her bones. "Dismount and dig in," she ordered. "Hernandez, get that plasma cannon set up. Ishikawa, Chen, cover the left flank. We hold this position no matter what." For hour after brutal hour, Fuentes and her Marines held the line against waves of Ivorian pulse troopers and Cynthian Resorings. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the last crystalline alien fell, bisected by razor-edged monomolecular blades, and a ragged cheer went up. Earth would not fall this day. Yet for every victory, humanity suffered a dozen bitter defeats. The Council's war machine was simply too vast, their numbers too great. Slowly but inexorably, the humans gave ground. But they made the aliens pay dearly for every inch with blood and fire and defiant last stands. Through it all, one grim reality became clear. If the Council had expected the humans to roll over and surrender, they had gravely miscalculated. Humanity would fight to the last, and the galaxy would tremble before their wrath. The Galactic Hordes. In the Grand Council chamber on the Galactic Council's throne world of Nexus Prime, an emergency session had been convened. Zol Krix, War Master of the Council Armada, stood before the assembled dignitaries, his carapace still scored from his frontline battles against the humans. "This cannot continue," the War Master snarled, slamming an armored fist against the podium. "The Terran's resistance has already far exceeded our projections. They should have capitulated within the first month, yet now they fight on into the sixth. If we do not contain them soon, we risk this conflict spilling out into the greater galaxy." Murmurs of assent rippled through the chamber. The war was meant to have been a brief police action to pacify an upstart species. Instead, it had turned into a protracted slog, sapping the Council's strength and casting doubt on its might. "What do you propose, War Master?" inquired the Ivorian Primarch. "We have already deployed over half of the Grand Fleet. Our vassal races grow weary of the ceaseless meekrinder." Zol Krix's compound eyes glittered coldly. "Then we call upon older packs. Rally the Uktar and Ragul hordes. Summon the Klaxian Deathshriekers and the Voidworm mercenary clans. Let's slip the ancient nightmares of our forefathers, and the Terran infestation shall be scored from the stars in a tide of fang and claw." And so the call went out to the dark corners of the galaxy. From the obsidian temples of the Uktar Khanate, they came, monstrous Ursine warriors encased in living adamantium who could shrug off fusion blasts and tear apart tanks with their rending talons. From the sweltering jungles of Klax 9, the Deathshriekers marched forth, wielding sonic cannons that could rupture organs and shatter bones. These were the Council's attack dogs, slave races, and gene-forged horrors kept leashed until now. Each alone was a match for 100 human soldiers. Together, they formed an unstoppable tsunami of fang and fury that crashed down upon Earth's defenders. On the embattled colony of Nova Carthage, Private Alia Salim watched in mute horror as a horde of reptilian Regol berserkers fell upon her platoon. Like a pack of ravenous jackals, the monsters moved with blinding speed, their monomolecular wrist scythes slicing through ceramic armor and reinforced bone with equal ease. Her comrades fought back with desperate valor, plasma fire and gyrojet rounds stitching the smog-choked air, but it wasn't enough. Not nearly enough. For each Regul that fell, 2 more sprang forward to take its place, heedless of loss so long as they could feed their insatiable bloodlust. As talons pierced her armor and the world dissolved into red agony, Salim's last thought was a desperate prayer for the homeworld she would never see again. All across the front, humanity reeled before the Council's soulless hordes. Inch by blood-bought inch, they fell back, sacrificing worlds to buy time for the desperate defense of Earth. Yet still the Council pushed on, throwing its vassals into the meat grinder with merciless calculation. The galaxy held its breath, waiting to see which side would break first. Humanity's defeat seemed all but certain, but the Terrans had one last card to play. Apex Predators. You want us to what? Admiral Vance gaped at the flickering hologram of Earth's Defense Secretary. You heard me, Admiral. Secretary Singh replied coolly. Effective immediately, we are authorizing the deployment of ARES assets to the front, including the Praetorians. Vance felt his blood run cold. ARES, the Augmented Reflex Engagement System, black-budget initiatives that ran the gamut from genetic supersoldiers to devastating sci-tech weapons. And the Praetorian Program, Earth's darkest and best-kept secret, a cadre of psychic operatives bound to eldritch entities from beyond the void. Weapons of last resort. Ones even he, a veteran of 30 years and 100 battles, had prayed would never see the light of day. Sir, are we truly that desperate? I'm afraid so, Admiral. The Council has backed us into a corner, and now we must show them the true face of humanity, why we rose to dominate our world, and why the galaxy will come to fear our wrath. We will teach them what it means to wake the apex predator. And so the monsters of Earth's darkest nightmares were unleashed upon an unsuspecting galaxy. On the plains of Hyperion V, a trio of Ukhtar warbands found themselves facing down a lone human warrior. The bear things chuffed with amusement at the arrogance of this soft, pink prey thing that dared to challenge them alone. With bellows of savage glee, they barreled forward to rend and tear with rune-etched claws. Then the human smiled, and the Ukhtar realized their mistake. A searing nova of psionic might erupted from the Praetorian's mind, immolating the Ursine warriors in white fire. As smoking husks toppled like felled trees, the operative strode forth, eyes blazing with eldritch power. On the ruined hive sprawls of Yax Secundus, a platoon of ARES troopers dug in against an onslaught of Klaxian death-shriekers. Sergeant Fuentes gritted her teeth as she beheld the insectoid horrors kittering forward on kitten-sheathed legs, their sonic cannons keening with skull-splitting resonance. Yet the black-armored super-soldiers held their ground with inhuman discipline, Gauss carbines, and plasma rifles stitching the smog-shrouded air with deadly precision. Every shot found its mark, sending broken Klaxian bodies slumping into the muck. Fuentes allowed herself a savage smile as her HUD tallied the kills. The Council had sought to overwhelm humanity with soulless monsters. Now they would learn the folly of picking a fight with mankind's own soulless killers. From the gene labs of old Earth to the soul forges of Mars, the nightmares of humanity's darkest impulses rose to shatter the Council's hordes with blistering psychic might and savage ferocity. The vassal races broke and fled before their onslaught, primal terror overwhelming their thirst for blood. As Zolcrix beheld the slaughter unfolding across 100 scattered battlefronts, a horrifying realization crept into his cybernetically augmented mind. That the Council, in its arrogance, had made a grave mistake. They had thought to break humanity's back with a show of brute force. Instead, they had unleashed a monster far worse than any of their own soulless killers. They had woken the apex predator, and now the galaxy would burn for their folly. Ultimate victory. On the ravaged surface of Nexus Prime, the unthinkable had come to pass. Warmaster Zolkrix stared in disbelief as human dropships disgorged power-armored Marines onto the Galactic Council's throne world. Soldiers of an upstart species, barely a footnote in the galaxy's long history, now stood poised to plant their flag in the heart of alien civilization. It had seemed impossible, yet here they were, blades flashing and Gauss rifles thundering as they cut through the Council's last desperate defenses like a plasma lance through cloth. The War Master had thrown everything he had at the humans, from gene-forged behemoths to singularity-wielding Cymancers. Yet nothing could halt their inexorable advance. In the end, it was not superior numbers or technology that sealed the Council's fate. It was the indomitable will of the human spirit, that primal savagery wedded to razor-edged cunning that had propelled them from humble origins to the apex of a hostile universe. An unbreakable determination, coded into their very genes by the unforgiving crucible of their evolutionary history. With a final, shattering blast, the reinforced gates of the Grand Council chamber burst inward. Through the swirling smoke strode a lone figure clad in battle-scarred power armor, a tattered UN flag fluttering from its shoulder pauldron. Zolkrix felt his guts clench with that same primordial dread he had seen in the eyes of fleeing Uktar warlords and Ragol blood priests. The raw, animalistic terror of prey before predator. "What do you want?" he snarled, one trembling claw hovering over the chamber's self-destruct trigger. The human regarded the War Master coolly through a mirrored faceplate. "Unconditional surrender," it replied in a voice like Arctic steel. "An end to this damnable war, on humanity's terms. You will agree to our demands and submit to our oversight, or we will dismantle the Galactic Council piece by bloody piece until nothing remains but ashes and bitter memory." Zolkrix's mandibles clacked with impotent fury. Everything he had been raised to believe, every scrap of Council doctrine and dogma, railed against capitulating to the savage primitives of Sol 3. Yet as he gazed into that impassive silver helm, he saw reflected there the merciless calculus of evolution, the cold equations of tooth and claw and bloody supremacy that the enlightened races of the galaxy had long thought. Zolkrix's mandibles clacked with impotent fury. Everything he had been raised to believe, every scrap of Council doctrine and dogma, railed against capitulating to the savage primitives of Sol 3. Yet as he gazed into that impassive silver helm, he saw reflected there the merciless calculus of evolution, the cold equations of tooth and claw and bloody supremacy that the enlightened races of the galaxy had long thought themselves above. With a shuddering sigh, the War Master bowed his head in surrender. "Very well," he chittered bitterly. "The Council accepts your terms. We will submit to human oversight. May the void take us all." And so, with a simple nod of acquiescence, the Galactic Council's millennia-long reign came to an ignominious end. In its place rose the United Terran Federation, a new order founded on human strength and tenacity. At the signing of the official document of surrender, Zolkrix could not help but marvel at the twist of fate. "We thought you savages," he remarked to the human admiral overseeing the proceedings. "Primitives clinging to your warlike ways while the rest of the galaxy embraced enlightenment. How wrong we were." Admiral Vance allowed himself a grim smile. "Your mistake was in thinking that our martial prowess was a sign of barbarism. In truth, it is our greatest strength. Through conflict, we have honed ourselves into the ultimate survivors, the apex predators of a hostile universe." The Admiral gazed out the viewport at the glittering tapestry of stars, each one now a jewel in humanity's crown. The Council sought to tame the galaxy through stagnation and control. But life cannot be tamed. It must be free to struggle, to fight, to evolve. And humanity shall be the crucible in which the future is forged. As word of the Council's capitulation spread, A stunned galaxy looked on in awe at the birth of a new era. An age of human ascendancy, built on the backs of iron-willed warriors and unfettered pioneers. The Milky Way would never be the same. The apex predators had arrived, and the universe itself trembled before their might. Part story meets your expectations. I aim to capture the themes of human ingenuity, resilience, and determination you outlined, while showcasing humanity's rise to dominance through a pivotal war against a stagnant alien hegemony. The story is written in a vivid, engaging style, with an emphasis on military sci-fi action, while still exploring deeper themes. Let me know if you would like me to modify or expand on any part of the story. I'd be happy to refine it further to suit your vision.